So we are going to start with the next topic, that is historical developments. Okay. So historical developments simply here means that with respect to time, how the developments have taken place in their computing technologies. Like initially we had centralized computing, then we had slowly gradually moved to parallel computing, then we have moved to distributed computing. So with the years, how the changes have taken place, how the computing technologies have evolved around the years, that is all about your historical development. So you can see over your screens there is a diagrammatic representation that tells you that between the years 1950 and 2010 there has been a drastic change in the technology, and we can see today in 2020 that we are actually using the cloud. Okay, cloud computing is something which is not really new, to be very honest. This has been already since years, but it has been adopted by everyone. Like the adoption and to accept it as an computing environment for everyone, that has actually taken a lot of years. So you can see in 1950 we had mainframe computers. In 1960 we have come up with supercomputers. In 1970 we have come up with the concept of ARPANET, Ethernet. Okay, we have come up with the TCP/IP concept. In 1980, we have come up with Ethernet and LAN. In 1990, we have come up with the cluster concept. That was your VM cluster. We have just come up with just a concept of your cloud computing, that how we can have cluster of data, how we can store the data virtually into the cloud. So just the idea have come up into the year 1984. Along with that, in 1990, we have come up with World Wide Web. We have come up with HTTP protocols. We have come up with HTML. We have come up with TCP/IP REFC code, IEEE, Wi-Fi, grid computing. By 2000 and 2010, there was a complete drastic change, and we have actually come up with cloud computing models. Okay, so that was your public clouds, which were of type Amazon, AWS, EC2, and S3 are the two versions. Then we have come up with Microsoft Aneka, App Engine, and Microsoft Azure. So when this 2000 and 2010, the concept was widely designed and it was ready to use. But again, it has been taken so much years to like accepted by people. So that was only the time which was required. But initially, if we see the development of cloud computing have actually done in the years 2000 and 2010. So we are going to see that important aspects which were there over the years was your first mainframe computers. Then they have come up with clusters. Then they have come up with the grids concept, that is was grid computing, and finally it was their cloud. So this was, you can see, a technological enhancement from mainframe to cluster, from cluster to grids, and from grids to clouds. So we are going to look each of them in detail now. So the very first, the three major milestones which have come up in cloud computing was your mainframe computing, cluster computing, and grid computing, and then it was cloud computing. So first we should know what do you mean by mainframe. Okay, basically mainframes were the computers which were considered to be most reliable and powerful computers, and they were actually designed for the reason that they will take enormous or massive amount of input and output operations. They were those computers which used to take a massive, like you can give a lot amount of instructions of the inputs, and in lesser time it will give you the output as well. Okay, so most of the mainframe computers were used where there used to be a lot of data processing in large quantities, where used to be a large quantities of online transaction, resource planning. So anything where there used to be a bulk of data, and those bulk of data should be used for input output operations, then usually they used to go for mainframe computers. Okay, so this computers were specifically designed for the reason that they can take a lot amount of data, they can process the data quickly, and they can give you the output as well. So they were referred as mainframe computers. Okay, they were not actually the part of distributed computing, but they were something where there used to be multiple processors, and multiple processors used to work quickly and efficiently and get your input processed and get you the result. Okay, the best part or the attractive features of the mainframe computers, but they used to be always considered that highly reliable. The reliable here refers to that this type of computers were not mostly coming across the situation of failures. They used to be considered as reliable and they should be always on. Like they used to come up with a very good memory. Since they used to take a lot of a massive amount of operations, so most of the time they used to not go down. Okay, if you talk about other computers, if if you give them more load, they start lagging up, or at times they goes down. But mainframe computers was something which used to be considered reliable computers. They used to come up with a lot of enormous, massive, you can say, storage capability, which helps you to store the massive amount of data, get the input output process. Everything should be processed at one place quickly, and they used to be considered as highly reliable computers. So this was the very first mainframes computers which have actually come up in the year 1950. You can see over the screen 1950 and 51. That was the first mainframe computer which have come into the picture. Next, we have the concept that is clusters. Okay, so basically, clusters is nothing but a supercomputer. Okay, so basically, cluster computer was something which was acting as an alternative to the mainframes and supercomputers. Okay, because if I talk about mainframe computers, they used to be very much expensive. Okay, the reason why they were expensive because they were usually reliable computers. They used to take a lot of input operations. They used to process a lot of output. They used to be considered as like you can set computers which can take a good input and give you quick output, and they used to be reliable. So big, since they come with so much characteristic, they used to be, very expensive, and everybody could not able to buy it because of this expensive nature. So there was an alternative to this. So the alternative like was the cluster computing, where the cluster was created. Cluster means what? You are combining two or more and you are creating one out of it. So that is all about cluster. So here we are used to use mainframes as well as supercomputers together, like the best of both worlds, you can see in other words, and you're coming up with one service or one cluster that will help you to do that task. Because if you go for only mainframe, it will become an expensive. So you have to combine, you can say expensive and less expensive together and give the best, like the best of both can be combined and give you the result. So basically, with that technology enhancement, like to make more powerful mainframes and supercomputers, the machines used to become easily available and easily you can combine the both of them. This was really possible with this. And the best part was that these machines would be able to be connected with high bandwidth network, and you can manage them by using just a single software tool. That was easily possible with this. So in 1980s, okay, the clusters becomes the standard technology that was used for parallel computing. We have not come up with distributed computing as of now. We are still in the parallel world where we have just moved from mainframe to supercomputers. Okay, so that was just a barrier. Okay, so this was all about your clusters. That is, you are creating the two clusters, combining the mainframes and your supercomputers. Okay, next we have is grid computing. So when I talk about grid computing was something which has appeared in 1990, sorry. So basically it was acting as an extended evolution to the clustered computing. Okay, extended evolution. Like to add some more to the cluster computing, they have come up with grid computing. Okay, so the grid computing was again something which was basically designed that there has to be a large computational power, there has to be huge storage facilities and variety of services. So far, our clusters was also doing this, no doubt with it, but there was some limitation over it. Okay, so to remove that limitation, to add more resources, to add more variety of services, they have come up with good computing. Okay, so users can consume the resource in the same way as they used to do. Okay, but this have actually started grids. Grids here simply means what? Now your clusters are not local. Now they are going to be, you know, global level. They are going to move to the global level. Now you can make your clusters and you can connect your clusters globally across the people. Okay, so that was all about grid computing. So your grid simply here refers to that now you're moving geographically and you are sending your clusters, or you can say sharing your clusters across the people globally. Okay, with the help of internet connection. Your clusters initially were local, like you had your local people, you have your local connections. Over this you used to provide the service. Now you're extending your clusters to the geographical level, to the next level where you can communicate with people at any point of time. You can share them data, they can have an access to their data, they can remotely use that. So now you are adding geographical diversity to it. That is usually referred as grid. So G here refers to geographical. Just simply remember, when you talk about grid computing, you are evaluating, creating an evolution of your cluster computing. And now with this, you can connect with the geographical dispersed location or clusters, and with the help of internet connection, you can help them to do the same. So we are moving to the next, that is building cloud computing environment, cloud reference model, cloud delivery model. So this has many words or many, you can say, meanings to it. So building cloud computing environments, cloud reference model, cloud delivery models, everything will have a same answer. So don't confuse yourself at the end of the day that which question has which answer. Okay. Cloud deployment models, if you're talking about, then it is public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. But if I talk about cloud reference model, cloud delivery, actually the cloud services are delivered with the help of which models? This is usually classified into this. Okay, so whenever you're building your cloud computing environment, whenever you're giving your services to your customers or people, you can say, then it is categorized into three. Okay, so the very first is SaaS, that is software as a service, that here deals with the application development. If you're giving application services to your customers, that can be CRM or any kind of application or software services, which is that referred as SaaS. Next, we have PaaS, that is platform as a service. So whenever you're giving a computing platform completely, then it is called as PaaS. Last is as, that is infrastructure as a service. So whenever you're giving your infrastructure and system development, then it is called as infrastructure as a service. So these are the three broadly classified. Depending on your requirement, depending on the services which you want, you have to identify whether you want just software as a service, whether you want just platform as a service, or you want entire infrastructure as a service. So depending on your requirements, you have to ask for that services, and accordingly your cloud provider will provide you with the services. Best part of cloud computing models is always pay as per use. So whatever you are using, you're going to just pay for it. Okay, you will not be charged anything extra. It is just like your electricity bill. Whatever is your usage, you're going to pay for that. So same applies here as well. In here also, whatever you are using it, you have to just pay for that. That's it. So we are going to start with the very first, that is software as a service. Okay. So software as a service is something which is completely based on the internet, and it is usually dealing with the giving the software as a service, like whatever software you want, whatever databases you want, any applications you want. Okay. That applications, whatever you want, you can have it with asking for the SaaS service, that is software as a service. Okay, mostly all the SaaS services or applications, whatever is given as per your demand. Whatever you're going to ask for, you're going to get that as a service. Like if I'm asking for a Word application, if I'm asking for a CRM application, so whatever I'm going to ask, office home automation, document management, photo editing, customer relationship software, anything which I want, I can ask for it, and the same will be replicated on the provider's infrastructure, and it will be made accessible to me with the help of the browser. So any application which I want not to be installed on my laptop, or which I think is cannot be possible to install, that can be n number of reasons, configuration issues or anything like that. But I want my work to be get it done. So what I will do, I will take software as a service from my cloud provider. He will make that application or service available for me, and I'm going to do my task. So whatever I'm going to use, I'm going to pay for that only. That can be hourly, that can be monthly, weekly. That depends on what plan you are opting for. Okay, so here I will be given software as a service. All the softwares which are required by me, I'm going to ask for that, and that will be given me as a service. Okay, so in traditional software mechanism, what do? We usually purchase the software. We install the softwares in our computer. Okay, at times if you are not upgrading your software, at times there are virus also coming into it. So there are many other problems, and this is again an additional cost. Okay, so better not to go for that, and you other go to your cloud provider. He will give you all the services at one place. Anyways, you have to pay on both the ends. If you're buying the software and you're maintaining it yourself, that is also something you're going to pay. And if you're taking a service from somebody else, in that case also you're going to pay. Okay, but the best part is like the maintenance part is actually eliminated if you are going for a cloud service. If you are not going for the cloud service, then the maintenance has to be done on your end. So here you're going to, you have to think that which is the right option for you. Okay, and the provider who is there, he is going to charge you monthly subscription or it depends on how you want. If you're asking for monthly subscription, or if you're asking for your any services on weekly basis, then also you can do it. Mostly cloud providers do what, when you are very much new, they give you a subscription period wherein they tell you that you first use, get comfortable. If you think you are liking it, then you can go for our actual product. So they will give you 1 week subscription or 3 days subscription, and then after using it, you have to let them know whether they would start with the actual process where you can be start, or either if you don't like it, then you can stop it. So the choice is yours. Okay. Another thing, when you talk about traditional softwares where you buy your own softwares, you have your license individually, and usually we go for a single device license. Okay. And again, you have to do the updation, you have to download, you have to purchase and install. So there is something, a lot of things which is has to be done on your end. If you don't want to get into this technical things and you want your work to be done in a lesser time without this overhead things, then you can go for a software as a service. That can be a good option for. Okay. In SaaS model, what these cloud providers do, basically they usually do the bulk purchasing of the software. Okay. Like they will purchase a software that can be used for multiple machines. Okay. So for them, it is very much easier because they are buying at a single point of time, and with a single login, they are doing the licensing of multiple application on a host of devices. So whatever applications they are using, they usually update it online. Okay, because these are the online softwares, and just with one update command in all the machines, the software gets updated automatically. So for them, it is very much easy because they are cloud providers, right? So they actually have designed the system in such a way that all the services, all the updation, all the maintenance will be done on online only. So they don't need to do anything personally. Okay, because they have the servers where they have this software installed, and with the help of the browsers, they give the remote services to you. Okay, so there is again a team of technical team which is there, which is taking care of handling of the software, which is taking care of updating the software. So something which is there on, which is they are managing the things on their end. Okay, and best part is like there is no overhead on you. Everything for you is becomes very easy. You just have to get into the software, log in into the software, whatever task you want to do, you can do it, and then you can end it off. You don't need to see what is the technical details, how the software is, what the software is, which update is, whether I have to do something else or not. Nothing is to be taken care from your end. You just have to simply log in with the credentials they will give you, and you can start with your work. Okay, because every user is given a credential. With that, they track the billing for you. So we have to just put that credentials, and you can start your work at any point of time. You can stop, then you can stop it. So the choice is yours. Okay, so this is something becomes very easy for you to manage the things from your end, and you can get all the softwares as a service. Like there are few softwares which are expensive, which you cannot buy. Okay, which you think, and at times there are some of the software which take a lot of computer memory as well. Okay, so in that case, the best is like get a cloud service and get your work done. At the end of the day, what matters is your work to be done. So that can be done through any means. Either you want to go for a traditional method of installing the software, or either you want to rent a cloud service. So the choice is yours. So that is your software as a service. So next we have is benefits of SaaS. Okay, so the very first benefits of SaaS is scalability. Why scalability is easier here? Because here you can easily add softwares whenever you want. You can easily add softwares to the servers, and then accordingly you can manage it and accordingly give the services. Because there is a possibility, like some of the cloud providers doesn't have softwares which is asked by their consumer. So in that case, the scalability plays a very important role there, wherein if anybody has asked for the software which is not available with them, they can easily add to the servers and then they can provide the services. Second benefit is availability. Since everything is stored over the cloud, everything is stored over the servers, so the availability is there. At any point of time you can get log in with your credentials and you can start with your work because the softwares are there in the servers. Next, no hardware cost for cloud-based SaaS. So there is no hardware cost is required because all your data, all your software applications are stored over the cloud. So the hardware cost is not there. Okay, that is maybe on your end. This is something which is a big benefit. You don't have to need a hardware cost. You just have to simply have a good internet connection, and you should have a good broadband connection, in other words, and that will help you to do your work smoothly or seamlessly, you can say. So that is the benefits of SaaS. So you can see the diagram is there. Software as a service, you have your servers, you have your databases, you have your codes, and the application is nothing but a user interface through which you're going to be connected. So you, with the user interface, you're going to be connected and you're going to be provided with the services. Next, we are moving to the second, that is platform as a service. Okay, so platform as a service, the word itself is very much self-explanatory, which says you that you are going to give computing platform as a services to your consumers. Okay, so that can be your operating systems, that can be your programming language execution environment, that can be your databases, your web servers, anything where the platform is required, then you can give them as a platform as a service. So examples are there over your screen: AWS, Elastic Beanstalk, Windows Azure, Heroku, Force.com, Google App Engine, Apache Strato. So these are some of the platforms which are mostly required by consumers to do their work done. So I mentioned the examples there. Okay. So platform as a service is again a cloud-based computing model. All of them are cloud computing model. And here the clients can be given the platform whatever they want. Okay. Any platform you want, that can be your Linux platform, that can be your Android platform, any platform which you want, which will be helpful for you to run your business applications along with the broadband speed which you want. Everything will be provided to you as per your requirement. Okay, so mostly platform as a service is referred as an on-site solution. Like on the site, on that particular moment, you are going to give the solutions to the people as per their requirement. Okay, again, this platform is going to be delivered with your service provider, that is nothing but your cloud provider. I usually refer that because it is easy for us to remember. Okay, so here you are not going to worry about how the infrastructure is going to be built, what are the things which I'm going to require, what is the minimum hardware requirements for this, what are the minimum software requirements. This all overhead is completely eliminated. You don't have to think of that. You just have to go to your cloud provider and you have to ask that this other platform which I want on the subscription basis or monthly basis or weekly basis. That is your choice how you have to go about. And once you are done with this, they are going to provide you with the platform. And over this platform, you can start deploying, you can start development, all everything you can do it. And all your data is going to be stored in the cloud safely. Okay, so this is not stored on the physical device, it is stored in the cloud. So it becomes very much easier for you to access at any point of time. And since it is on the cloud, it gives you a lot of reliability also. At you can take the data at any point of time and you can share it also. Okay, so everything can be possible for you, everything is delivered to you just by the simple cloud based applications which are stored into the cloud along with the different platform options, and you can buy it. Okay, so here you have to completely, don't have to think about the resources which you are required. All that is required, you should know that what platform you want, and once you know what platform you want, you can ask your provider and it is going to provide you pay as you go basis. That is what you are going to use, you have to pay for that, and that you can have an access to it over the internet connection. Okay, so basically in platform as a service, you are going to provide different platforms to your consumers or customers. That can be your operating system platform, that can be your programming application platform, or you can say execution environment. If I want to have a Linux execution environment, then I can have that as well. I can have different database platforms, SQL database, MS SQL, anything platform of my choice which I want. I have to just ask for it to my cloud provider and is going to provide me that platform. Okay, so all of the overhead of maintaining that infrastructure, of maintaining that platform, or downloading that platform into my devices, I'm completely eliminated out of this. So that is all about your platform as a service. So what are the benefits of PaaS, that is platform as a service? So first is add development capabilities without adding staff. So here again the concept lies the same, where you can add your platform directly to the servers and accordingly you can give the services to your consumers. So here you don't need additional staff to do the thing. Okay, the people, those who are handling the server, they are going to take care of it, and they will make sure that all your operating systems are installed into that service. Develop for multiple platforms, including mobile and more easily. So here, if I talk about platform as a service, we are not looking for only the platforms which are used for computers. We are including the platforms that can be your iOS, can your Android. So all the platforms are going to be used. So operating systems or the platforms, everything which is required, all the platforms are going to be part of this platform as a service model. Last, support geographically distributed development teams. So here, whenever you're giving a service that is platform as a service, you are not just giving a local service, but you are also giving a geographical service. So your consumers or your customers who are there, who are geographically located, can have an access to this service, where then they can get the platform which is required by them as per their needs. So that these are the three common benefits of platform as a service. So you can see over your screen there is one cloud, and there are many clients are connected to that cloud, and the services is being given to that clients. Next, we have the third, that is infrastructure as a service. So this is also at times referred as hardware as a service, because here you are giving your hardware, or you can say computer hardware, or renting the computer hardware rather than purchasing or installing it in house. Okay, because when we talk about hardware, this is something which is an exceptional cost, you can say, or it is usually in a very high cost if you talk about, because a hardware is a baseline for your software. Without a hardware, your software will not have any existence. So the very first thing which is important whenever you're thinking to run about your software, you need a good baseline of your hardware. So usually this is called as hardware as a service, and here you're going to lease, or you can say rent your computer hardware rather than purchasing or installing it in house. Okay, because for that you need very good hardware administrators, you need a skillful hardware persons who will do the same. So that is again an extra additional cost. So instead of going for that additional cost, better is that you take that service by your cloud provider and get your work done. Okay, so hardware which you want to rent can be your servers, your storage, your networking technologies, cables, firewalls, etc., and so on. So infrastructure as a service means what? Entire infrastructure you are renting it. Okay, so that infrastructure will have your computers, will have your services, your storages. Yeah, they will have different fiber optic cables or cables for communication. Entire infrastructure, if you are renting or you are asking as a service, is called as infrastructure as a service. So rather than building your custom uh, infrastructure by adding overhead cost, it is better you can have this same thing with your cloud provider. Just give them your requirements, that in your infrastructure what do you want, what type of server you want, what is storages you want, what is the capacity of that storage, what networking technologies you want, how you want to connect your computers, what cables and firewalls you want. So everything you can give them your requirements, and according to your requirements they are going to configure your infrastructure remotely, and they will help you to install it through into your device through the login, and you can get your work done. Okay, because if you go think of doing the same thing on your own machines, or if you think of infrastructure as a service without renting it, it will become very costlier. Okay, because infrastructure consists of everything, and that everything at every step is going to be costlier for you. So it is always suggested that whenever you're going for infrastructure as a service, where you don't want to go in much technical details, you don't need to hire additional staff, you want your work done at very lesser cost, then cloud service can be a very very good option for you, that you can go. Okay, so mostly the cloud provider does what they usually first study the traditional data centers which are there. Okay, and then they make the use of hypervisor. Hypervisors are nothing but which will help you to create virtual machines. So many virtual machines are going to be created, and with that virtual machines they are going to give you services to the users. Okay, so your all your cloud services, PaaS and SaaS, are also in the comes under part of your infrastructure. So I can say infrastructure is at higher level, and your PaaS and SaaS are something which are already the part of it. Because if I talk about infrastructure, it comes with platform, it comes with software application. So my software as a service is something which is at lower level. Then I have a platform as a service, next level, and the top of everything is my infrastructure as a service, which combines all of this two together. So this is the complete, you can say, a leveling or level wise services which is given to the consumer. If you just want software as a service, then only software applications will be given you as a service. If you want platform as a service, only platforms will be given to you as a service. And when you talk about infrastructure, everything will be given you as a service. Like a ready-made infrastructure will be given. You just have to use it and you can have to get your work done. Mostly as is advantages for all the companies, those who want to have a quick scalability, those who want to get their work done in a lesser time, they don't want to hire additional cost, and they want like they don't want to invest much into hardware and software, then they usually go with this. And trust me, this will be less expensive for you rather than creating your own infrastructure as a service, because when you're talking about creating your own, you need an additional staff to maintain as well. It's not like that you have brought the infrastructure, you have designed the infrastructure, you have made the hardware software components ready and it is done for the day. You need someone to manage it, you need someone to take care of it. Maintenance is also equally important because it's you will have a regular patch up, you will have regular upgradations of your softwares, you will have upgradations of your platform. So there's many things which works in the background. So whenever you're going for infrastructure as a service, it is always suggested that you should go for a cloud service rather than having your own infrastructure built in-house. Because building in-house and installing in-house is going to be very much costlier for you. Okay, and many offline workload which is there, or routine operations which are there, maintenance issues are there. These are also automatically solved in this cloud service. So this is something which is very much advantageous, and mostly it is suitable for all the organization which are large organization where they have businesses where quick decision making is required. Okay, and they don't want to have an extra overhead or hardware cost, then they usually go with this. So that is infrastructure as a service. So the benefits of as that is infrastructure as a service is, the very first is pay for what you use, and this benefit is something you can say common with all the methods or the cloud delivery models. Second, reduce capital expenditures. The capital expenditures, that is investing in the hardware, the cables, and other extra resources which are required for developing the infrastructure, that is completely reduced here. Dynamically scalable, you can easily add any platforms, you can easily add softwares, and then you can do it. That is a dynamic scalability. This is again, you can say, an important benefit which is common across all the three cloud delivery models. Last, reduce downtime. Reduce downtime here simply refers that the failure, the reliability of the system, which usually will be down in case of the traditional methods, will completely resolve here, because here you have many servers and each of the servers are having all the data. So the downtime is usually less here. If one of the server is down, it is easily directed to the other server. So here mostly the downtime is very less. All that is required a good internet connection from your end as well as from the cloud provider, because the important element here is your internet connections only, which plays a very important role here. Okay. So this is the comparative study of SAS, PaaS, and AS, which we are going to look into the next lecture. So that's it for the day. Thank you, everyone.